Maverick News presents The Rick Walker Show. Defrag your mind.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back, Maverick family and new viewers from all over the world. Thanks for joining me tonight. Some people want a revolution so bad they can taste it. Some people want to tear everything down. They don't realize that if it's gone, they're going to miss it. Make no mistake. Don't take what I am saying tonight lightly, because I'm not. All these things happening, it's all choreographed. It's all connected. Of that, I am certain. Can I tell you exactly who's behind it? Yeah, it's not one player, it's a bunch. Many people, governments, outside governments, they're all in on it. They're all active in one way or another. Canada is fragile. It has been from the beginning. Separatist movements in the West, separatist movements in Quebec. And we take it for granted. We have always taken it for granted. And we act as though we are immune to the kinds of unrest and wars that we have watched and even facilitated in other parts of the world. Oh, fight a war over there so we don't have to fight it over here. Oh, send military and humanitarian aid overseas because we're such kind people. Well, folks, we've been importing it. It's here. It's here. It's in the streets. It's being in the streets. It's being fermenting for a long time. And people are taking advantage of it. I'm not going to get into all the details tonight. I'll get into more of it in other nights. I'll show you some of it tonight. When you go out and protest and you think you're protesting for whatever it is you think you're protesting for, you might not be, you might be helping someone give you exactly what it is you don't want in the end. Exactly the opposite might be the effect of what it is you're fighting for or against. We're all being, you, me, everybody, we're all being manipulated. You love your country? You want your country back? Well, the only solution is to tear it all down. Who's the enemy? I don't even know anymore. I'm having a little trouble with a feed here. I'm going to have to shut this one down on the secondary feed tonight. It's all right. We'll upload stuff later. We also have a special guest coming up tonight. Different topic. Thank goodness, because I've just had my fill of it for months. And I'm trying to warn you, trying to warn the country, trying to explain what's going on, but it's so freaking complicated. I'm just telling you, this country is on the edge. And people don't even realize it. I went for a walk today. Calm, beautiful fall day, moderate temperature, clear skies, just wisps of clouds. Through my calm, peaceful neighborhood. 2 walks with my dog. How deceiving. Because I know everything that's going on out there. As do you, because you're seeing it. Some of you are participating. We're in a lot of trouble. Everybody wants the before times back. Oh, you're going to want these times back pretty soon. You're going to want this back. It's because I think it's going to get so freaking bad that you're going to want the freaking lockdowns back. It's going to get that bad. Unless something's done, unless people truly become aware. I'm tired of this. Wake up, because you know what? The people waking up. Oh my God. What do you know what they're waking up to? Mental manipulation. Psyops. I'm awake. Yeah, really? I'll show you what I mean. I'm going to show you in very simple terms what I'm talking about, because it's out there in the streets. Be careful what you ask for. We do have a special guest coming up, as I said, very shortly. I shouldn't even be laughing. This is so dangerous. Jeremy Pion-Berlin, filmmaker, documentary producer. He has been on the program before. And he has a new movie out, a documentary called Failure to Protect. It's an important documentary that explores the issue of really children's aid services, government programs that are designed to protect our children, protect society's children. But as many of you know, even some of you firsthand, these programs are not only largely ineffective, they trample on people's rights, parental rights, in many, many cases, in many different ways. Jeremy, I think, has created a very powerful documentary. He's going to be here to give us a preview, discuss the issue, and I really look forward to that conversation. Stay with me. When we come back, we'll dig into some of today's top news, and I'll explain what it is I was just talking about with regard to how fragile everything is, not just in the United States, but especially in Canada right now.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, Maverick News. Defending free speech, free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Okay, I'm back. So what am I talking about? Talking about this kind of stuff worldwide, everywhere, everywhere. This stuff like this. Okay. So yeah, there's that. What else is there? Oh, there's well, it's this is coming after calls for a worldwide day of terror. Oh yeah, well we're getting it. Like it wasn't just not going to be one day. No, there's a call for a worldwide jihad, a worldwide intifada. Canada is a direct target. Some people, this is not something that's happened just recently. This has been planned for a long time. We've been watching it unfold in Canada for years now. This is a plan. Canada is in the crosshairs. This isn't just a war in Israel and Palestine. This is a war being fought right here, right now. Some people want a revolution. And I'm not talking just about the guys, the freedom convoy with the muskets and the hockey helmets. I'm talking about like that's part of it. It really is, whether they realize it or not. I'm talking about other people, info warriors, propagandists, political activists online, psyops, intelligence agencies bombarding people with very specific kinds of psychologically manipulative messaging in order to gin up, essentially, a color revolution in this country. And it's happening right now. People think they're going out to protest for, I'm just going to be straight up with you. You think you're going out there to protest for saving the children. No, you're just going out there to be disruptive, not because you want to be disruptive or be a jerk, but because people are manipulating the entire situation. And they glom on to any news event. Some of these incidents, wars even, are manufactured events, planned. Of course, a war is a planned thing. They plan an attack and then it happens. It's planned. It's not organic, like it is, but it isn't. All these protests. Yeah, you know what? It's a call for a worldwide revolution, and we're getting it. At least they're trying to make it happen. And Canada has been at the very center of a lot of this stuff for quite a while because Canada sits on the doorstep of the United States, and we have all these resources. Everything from lumber and coal and uranium, and water. Something came to my attention just within the last few days. I mean, I've known about this, but it really there was something that really brought it to the surface, if you will. There's technology out there to turn water into energy, to store energy, solar and wind electricity. That's who has the most water in the freaking world? Probably us, Canada. Going to turn this whole country into a damn battery. I'll explain more about it another night. Here. Oh, I'm on Palestine's side. I'm on Israel's side. Oh, yeah. Okay. Go ahead. Right? Go ahead, man. If that's what you think you're on somebody's side. How about this person? Rebel News with this person here. Oh, Hamas isn't a terrorist organization. I'm on Palestine's side. Okay. If you say so. I'm sure she believes it.
Hamas is not a terrorist group.
Oh, it isn't, man.
First of all, Hamas is not a terrorist group.
Okay,
Hamas
well,
is not a terrorist group.
what is it, like a motorcycle club? Or?
It is a resistance that has been fuming for 75 years of colonialism, of occupation, of murder, of rape, of little children, of women. That's what they are. They're a resistance.
Do you think Canada is a colonialist country too?
Everything that they do is justified.
Including what happened last week?
Every single thing they have done is justified.
Ma'am, there were children murdered. There were babies beheaded.
Babies beheaded, really? Please educate yourself.
Well,
Please check the news, because as a news reporter, you got to check the fucking news, because they said that shit was fake, okay? Multiple times. Different channels, even Biden himself, his ministers and his idiots said himself that news was fake. So, there's no 40 beheaded babies.
And there were no 1,300 deaths in Israel?
There's no evidence. There's no photos whatsoever. Hamas is a Muslim group. They would never do that because it's against Islam. That's number one. And that's something that they show.
Do you really believe that?
There is evidence of Israeli women saying that they gave us water, they gave us food, they gave us a place to sleep comfortably. They gave us clothes. They got them to cover up out of respect. This is actual women having interviews talking about when they were hostages or when they were taking in, when Hamas members were coming into their house. These are actual Israeli women saying this is how they were. Even at some point, a Hamas fighter told one of the women, "Can I have a banana to eat?" He asked if he could eat a banana that was in her home. Does that sound like a fucking terrorist to you?
Sounds like the information war raging. That's what it sounds like to me. Oh, I saw a video and they were kind over here. I saw a video and they blew somebody up. I saw a video of this and I saw a video of that. I saw this. I read that. Check the news. Blah, 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 blah. No wonder there's no peace. No wonder. Oh, my God. Biden goes to Israel today. But before we get to that, let me show you what was going on in Dearborn, Michigan, where they have a huge Muslim community. Nothing against that lady. You know, I get it. I understand why she's saying what she's saying. I understand why she's wearing the, the machine gun earrings. I get it. You know, because everything they do is justified. Everything they do is justified. Yeah. Everything. You know what kind of revolution I think some people really, 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 really want in this country? Communist revolution. There, I said it. Oh, yeah. Communist revolution. Make no freaking mistake. You know the thing about communists, and I've got some communist friends. I learned this a long time ago. They are incredibly deceptive. Not so much that they come right out and lie. They just hide a lot of things. Like they hide that they're communists. They don't really come right out and say it a lot of the time. Most of the time, they just don't. They don't tell you. And when they start a revolution, they don't really tell you. Did you hear what I'm telling you? Because I'm telling you. Some people want a communist revolution in this country. And on the other side, you have some people who know that they want to start a communist revolution and they're prepared to push right back against it. And I think that's coming from the US side. not just conservative circles, but fascistic circles. So you've got communists lined up on one side, and you've got fascistic Nazi-like people on the other side. Anyway, you slice it. I don't even think these labels really apply anymore, but you have authoritarians ready to go head to head and use you, use me, use everybody, use civilians as cannon fodder, including First Nations peoples, by the way. It's percolating, folks. They're ready to rock and roll. They're chomping at the bit, and this conflict in the Middle East is just what they've been waiting for. They've been creating it. And the propaganda on both sides is off the frickin' charts. This is what was going on. I'm just telling you. Just telling you. Be careful. Too many people calling for too much violence, and all I want, folks, is peace. That's all I want.
Get off the ground! Palestine will be free! Palestine will be free! Intifada! 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 Long live the Intifada! Long live the Intifada! 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 Long live the Intifada! Long live the Intifada!
Okay, so that's in Dearborn, right? Not far from where I sit right now. And this was Toronto. And this is, listen to what they're chanting. I'm pretty sure that a lot of the Torontonians chanting this don't even know what it is they're actually calling for. Because, you know, us Canadians, most of us don't know our history, and even our modern history, and we certainly, most of us don't understand the situation in the Middle East. But here it is. There's only one solution: Antifada, revolution. This is downtown Toronto. You want a revolution? You want an intifada? You want a global intifada? You want to hear? Do you think those people even knew what the hell they were chanting for? Some of them probably do, because there were a lot of people from Palestine there, new Canadians. I guess they, did you know what those words meant? I'll connect more dots for you. That march coming up on the 21st, multiple marches, supposed to be a worldwide march now, right? 1 million march for children. That's what it was branded as the first time. What did we see? We saw a lot of people from the Muslim community come out, support that. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people in the streets about a month ago across Canada in all major cities. Huge success as protests go. But what's really going on out there? Was it just that one issue? Like, what is that? March save the children. Oh, that's a pretty broad statement. And now the big one on the 21st, the main group has canceled it, but all these other groups are proceeding with it. I guess there's some conflict there of some kind, but some people are determined to make it happen, and they've actually rebranded it now. Now it's Stop the War on Children, 1 million March for Children. So they're combining this war in the Middle East, not even really defining which side it is that they're supposed to be supporting, other than they want to stop the war. So are they on Palestine's side, Israel's side? I don't know, or just being neutral? I don't know. It's not really clearly laid out. They just want people to come out. and they're combining war, a war protest. It's not even being dubbed a peace protest. So, go ahead, I guess, and save the children from what? The war? I thought it was drag queen story time or something. Now it's the war. It sounds pretty volatile to me. And then you throw in the First Nations stuff that's going on in Ottawa, even as we speak, combined with the non-voy convoy thing where we knew that their plan involved guns and violence initially, and now that's been rolled back because it was exposed, and they're still sitting in farmers' fields out there. And if you think for 1 minute that this stuff is not all connected, you are not awake at all. I'm going to take a quick break. Enough of that. I just showed you in very simple terms. What you're seeing there is the beginnings of a color revolution, folks. Nothing against people protesting. Be very, very careful what you ask for. You might just get it.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, Maverick News. Defending free speech, free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
All right, time to bring in our special guest for the night and shift gears, talk about something else, finally. Thank you, Jeremy Pion-Berlin. Thank you for joining us on the program again tonight. It's great to have you back.
Thanks, Rick. Appreciate you having me.
Wow, you have this new documentary out. It's called Failure to Protect. Can you tell our viewers what the subject matter is?
Yeah, of course. So the documentary follows 3 sets of parents who have all lost their children to Child Protective Services, which is a government agency. And it's a journey where you follow these parents as they try to reunify with their kids that have been placed in foster care. But at the same time, you learn about the child welfare system here in America and some of the injustices that happen. So it was important to tell it from the parents' perspective because I felt like their voices were really being silenced within this system. But at the same time, I wanted it to be emotional and informational so you can kind of understand the bigger policies at play that are affecting everyday people's lives.
Right. So I have this trailer for the documentary. Is it okay if I run that for folks here?
Yeah, please go
All
for
right,
it.
let's do that, and that'll help kind of tee up the conversation. Here we go.
Today just so happens to be the 2nd year that our son's been gone. And we've been in the fight of our life.
This is a legal system that you're going into. And if you don't know the rules, you will be chewed up and spit out.
If I could say anything to a mother who just got their children detained, you're in a crisis. Life feels like it's over. The most important thing is regaining custody of your children.
The child welfare system at its core is designed to protect children who need protection. Okay, and that's key, is who need protection.
So social workers, out of fear, will remove more children rather than only remove those children that truly need to be removed.
It's okay. It's okay.
This isn't someone stole your car. Someone broke into your house. This is someone took your child, your flesh and blood.
Were there signs there? Were there no signs? Did I miss them? Did I catch them? At this point, I honestly don't know.
Kids are not safe in child protective services, and they won't give them back to their loving families because they're making money.
My son with special needs has been in 4 different homes. It doesn't seem real.
The difference between the criminal system and the child welfare system is substantial. You have more rights as a criminal than you do as a parent.
Wow, that's powerful.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
What was it, Jeremy, that prompted you to do this work?
Yeah, so my mom actually has been running one of the oldest nonprofit child abuse prevention agencies in America called Parents Anonymous. So it's something that, I've been around my entire life. But one day I was kind of there doing a video for her, and I kind of had parent after parent sort of tell me your story. How did you lose your kids? How did you get to this point? And story after story, it was essentially the same things, the same injustices, the same abuses by the social worker. And these people were kind of the same, very similar circumstances. A lot of them were, African American or Latino, or they were from the lower socioeconomic class. And I kind of left that day just really inspired to try to tell this story from their perspective. And what does it take to prove to the system that you're not this monster that, they're trying to tell you that you are?
But isn't the system supposed to protect children? Why in your estimation is it not working?
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of reasons why the system is failing parents and children. The goal of the system obviously is to protect children, but what oftentimes happens is the standards that get used in these juvenile dependency courts are lower standards than our criminal and civil courts in America. And so when an allegation arises, oftentimes kids will be taken from their parents without even speaking to the parent or understanding the full spectrum of the story. And, people get, victimized, in this process. And, unfortunately, the system, the way the money flows, which, in every system, that's always the key indicator of how things work, right? And so within this system, the money flows that the more kids that you put into the system, the more these agencies make. And they're actually incentivized financially $4,000 to $8,000 per child to move kids from foster care to adoption. So instead of using that money, it's actually $30 billion a year annually we spend on the child welfare system to help these families, give them resources, help remedy the problems. They take kids away first and ask questions later. And so if that money was spent giving these families resources, classes, whatever they need, and keeping the kid in the home, we would see a lot better results. Because unfortunately, when kids enter the foster care system, their outcomes are really abysmal, unfortunately. And, likelihood of going to jail, likelihood of being unemployed, all these things skyrocket once you enter the foster care system. So it's also like a liability thing. These judges and social workers are scared, if they return a child and something happens to a child, well, that's their ass, right? And so they prefer to take the kid. And once you're in this system, even if they find out the allegations are incorrect or they're untrue, they're not just going to return the kid tomorrow. This process, I would say, at minimum takes a year to get your kids back. And that's a quick process, I would say.
Wow. Well, we're talking here about the system in the United States, but I think there are many similarities between the U.S. system and the Canadian system. As you know, we're based in Canada, but we have kind of a split audience, U.S. and Canadian.
Yeah, I mean, there was a famous lawsuit, I believe, not even that long ago, a year or two ago, with the Native Americans in Canada. It was a class action lawsuit against your guys' child welfare system. I believe 30 to 50 billion dollars they were awarded because of the abuses that were happening there. Unfortunately, a lot of the social workers that come into this field are young, don't have a lot of life experience. And when you go into someone's home who comes from a different race, a different religion, a different socioeconomic status, unconscious bias happens a lot. And, a lot of judgment is placed on these families. And oftentimes the social worker who comes to your home and removes your kids is the social worker that's handling your case for that next year. Now, how do you think most parents react when their kids get taken from them? Well, they say some pretty horrible things to these social workers, and they're people too. And so, unfortunately, the biggest likelihood of you getting your kids back in this system is whether your social worker likes you or not. And that's not how it's supposed to work. And there's a big dissidence within the system of how it's supposed to work and then how it actually works. And there's a big separation there. And I highlight that at the start of the film.
I would think the problems start with the way that they staff these services. It comes down then to the frontline workers.
It does in a sense, and it doesn't in another sense, right? Unfortunately, we're not victimizing all social workers as bad, all social workers as good. This is a definite gray area. Same thing you could say with police, right? But the issue is that even when a social worker recommends that a child be returned to their home, oftentimes their supervisor or their supervisor will tell them no. And if the social worker doesn't abide by that, then they'll get taken off the case. So even when you have those good social workers who are trying to return kids home, they often get pushed aside, unfortunately. And yeah, I think also, in the educational process of it, I think they come into it a little too naive about how things are actually working. And, they have things that they're trying to improve about the system, but at the end of the day, it works how it works, right? And I think these normally young white women come in 25 years old, you come into a 45-year-old woman's house who's got 5 kids, 2 jobs. You don't really understand the stressors that they have on their life. And unfortunately, judgment's passed upon them. And, if you don't say the right thing or do the right thing, that's their stick. The police have a stick, it's a gun. The social worker's stick is taking your kids away and holding that carrot over your head.
And can you speak to the demographics that are in play here?
As far as the families?
Yeah. Like
the
who's
families,
affected by this most?
Yeah, the families that get hit by the most is definitely on the lower socioeconomic means. It just kind of depends where you are in our country. But if you're poor, you are very much more likely to get taken because, like, for example, in California, in the juvenile dependency court, over 90% of the attorneys in this court are court-appointed attorneys, and they often have huge caseloads, and they'll see you 2 minutes before your court hearing. I was at court, and actually the social worker came up, and she didn't even know the woman's name. She had forgotten her name, and that's her fault, but it's also the fault of the system for overworking these people. And they tend to be Black or brown are the most hit, societies, racial groups that are hit by this. Very rarely will you see a upper class person in these courtrooms. And if you do, they'll hire a private attorney and they'll probably get their case wrapped up a lot quicker. So yeah, like most things in our society, the lower end of society gets hit the hardest, unfortunately.
What kind of abuses are we talking about here? I would imagine it's everything from sexual abuse to not being
Physical
properly
abuse.
fed because the families maybe don't have the resources in place to deal with properly feeding and clothing their children. Can you speak to all of that?
Yeah, the common abuses are, general neglect, physical abuse, sexual abuse happens. And unfortunately, with sexual abuse, that usually is, recurrent, a cycle within the family. It happened to your uncle and then, your grandfather and so on. And no one deals with that cycle of abuse. But why the film is called Failure to Protect, actually, it's a statute in the child welfare law. And essentially, if a parent fails to protect their child against abuse or neglect, the social worker can remove the child from the home. But the issue with that law is it's very vague. What is failing to protect, right? I mean, if you didn't know something was happening in your home, is that your fault? Or should you have known? Or, so it gives them a lot of leeway in taking kids much easier. It's almost every person I met on their, allegations, failures to protect is almost always listed. I compare it to sort of resisting arrest in America, right? If you get arrested and you turn your shoulder left, well, you've resisted arrest. It's a very easy thing they slap on there, and it's very common, unfortunately.
I guess your position, the position you've come to through doing this work, is that in most cases, it's in the best interests of the child to leave them in the home, but the system needs to change so that parents have the proper support mechanisms in place so that they can properly care for their children.
Yeah, exactly. And, also why I was really inspired to make this film, Rick, was that there's only one story you really ever hear. If you do hear a child welfare story in the news, or maybe there's been a couple other documentaries, it's the same story. It's the parents' horrible abuse, horrible neglect. The social worker should have stepped in sooner and done something sooner, right? And what I'm not saying those cases don't exist, they obviously do exist out there, but they're not the majority of cases. Those are the minority of cases. Usually it's a couple that has a dispute and one lashes out on the other, or it's an angry kid who, doesn't want to do his homework, or it's the parent made a mistake, sure, but does it rise to the level of needing your kids removed? Maybe they just need a parenting class. Maybe they need some mental health services. Um, so I wanted to tell a more nuanced story, one that is the one that's really affecting the majority of families out there. And I sit out in front of the court and I would talk to family after family, and you just hear the same stories over and over again. And I would just notice in the news, those stories were never reported. They were never touched on those. And that's why I wanted to tell this story, and especially from the parents' perspective.
What were the challenges in telling a story like this? You must have been dealing with confidentiality issues and consent issues and
Yeah,
legal
a lot,
issues,
a lot,
right?
a lot of issues. One interesting thing about the child welfare system and the juvenile dependency courts, which is where the court system that these families are tried in, the juvenile dependency court is a closed courtroom. It's not like civil. It's not like criminal. A journalist, a documentary filmmaker, we can't just enter this courtroom. So, um, when you don't have sunlight and you don't have eyes on something, well, abuses happen. They say it's for protecting children, but I would argue having more checks and balances, having more eyes on this system would protect children better, and you would see better results. So that was one difficulty trying to enter the courtroom. Um, I finally actually got entrance to a court hearing, brought a camera crew, everybody. We showed up to the courtroom. We went outside, and then the judge denied me access at the very end. So, but that was like indicative of the system. That was indicative of, they don't have good checks and balances. It's kind of like the police, how the police check and balance them themselves. The system checks and balances on themselves, which isn't a good system. You need a third party to kind of come in there and look at things from an objective standpoint and try to make the most informed decision possible. It's not about he said, she said. It's let's look at all the facts. Let's look at all the information. And, this isn't a one fit all thing. You have to really look at each situation and try to make the best estimation possible. Obviously, it's a difficult process, but when you're not allowing people's voices to be heard, like the parents, I feel like that's a huge failure on the system.
And you are giving at least a few parents an opportunity to have a voice. Uh, was it important for you to sort of tell this story through that kind of lens on a human in a human way by focusing on the personal experiences that some people have had?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, the human, aspect of this film is critical, and the five parents I follow throughout the film, each have unique experiences, come from different backgrounds, but they also have similarities as well, and they experience similar type of things. And so it was just important to let their voices be heard, because when I kind of come in and speak to them, it's a breath of fresh air because I actually want to listen to them. I actually want to hear what they have to say. And oftentimes, these social workers, they write these court reports. And that's sort of their whip, is the pencil whipping these parents. Um, and the way that they write them and frame them, it's they take the negatives and they write a list this long, and then they take the positives and they write a list this long, and so it becomes, who are they going to believe, right? The social worker or the parent? Of course they're going to believe the social worker. So when the judge gets this report, it's almost looked at like it's fact, unfortunately. And so they don't understand the backstory, they don't understand all the information, and abuses happen, unfortunately.
So you highlight the problems, you tell this, you share some personal stories, or some people share their personal stories through you, through
Mhm.
your work. Are there any suggested solutions that we're going
I
to be, so,
I mean, yeah, I
through
mean,
this?
I don't want to like put out like this is what needs to happen. I like to, this documentary is about, let's give you all the information and let's let the audience make the most informed decisions and opinions they can. And I try to be as unbiased as possible. So, you hear from social workers, you hear from their perspective of things. And it's not easy for them either. They get massive caseloads, they're overworked, underpaid. They're human beings too, right? And then you hear from the parents, then you hear from the judges, you hear from the attorneys, and you try to get a full spectrum of this system and realize what's not working within it. I mean, but I think a couple of the huge problems, I highlighted the closed courtroom, but another one is hearsay is allowed in these courtrooms. And as one of my civil rights attorneys says in the film, if you allow hearsay into a court proceeding, you bastardize the court proceeding. And I fully agree with that. And the issue is, a social worker can use hearsay to take a child away from a parent, but a parent can't use hearsay to defend themselves. So it becomes an unfair advantage for them from the get-go. And I think also just, the checks and the balances, the training, and those are huge things that can change. And I highlighted it earlier, but the money, right? We all know the money is the root of all evil, and how the money flows is how the system's going to work. So the system is built on once kids are in foster care. So all the money is allocated to once they're in the system, not about trying to keep them out of the system and get them the resources and help they need. And so I think those are some of the key issues. And those are throughout the country. These families are based in California that I filmed, but the issues that I talk about within the film are nationwide. Each state, each county has different, specific policies, but essentially they work all very similar. And there's a lot of the same issues occur.
And usually you hear there's inadequate funding for this government program, but it isn't just a matter of funding levels, it's how the money is spent.
Yeah, no, I don't think it's an inadequate funding thing at all. I think it's just how it's spent and how it's utilized. You know what I mean? If we took this money and we rerouted it in a totally different direction, you would see a completely different system at play. And yeah, I think that's really the key to it, unfortunately.
In addition to that, we've seen over decades real cultural changes as well. There's changes in the way families are structured. Is
Mhm.
that having an impact?
I think so. I think so. I think, you know, family dynamics are different and unique to each family, right? And, um, you know, the need for specificity, right, I think is really key and really honing in on this specific family, their specific circumstances, and tailoring the needs and the wants of that family is key. And I think the system kind of does a one size fits all type of thing. And like you said, as families change, as dynamics are changing in America and all across the world, it needs to have more flexibility and to really fit the needs of each of those families instead of just trying to just put them into a box.
And then you also have, and you've already touched on this, economic issues, unemployment.
Yeah, unemployment obviously plays a big part, and I touch on it in the film, is that the system really struggles to differentiate between poverty and neglect. And there is a difference. And there's a statute in there that says just because you're poor, even if you're homeless, isn't a reason to take children away. But what oftentimes happens is if your kids get removed and let's say you become homeless, well, they're not going to return your kids to you now because you're homeless, right? And you can't get a job or you can't pay your rent. And we know with the prices of everything skyrocketing and wages staying stagnant, I mean, it's harder and harder to just put a roof over a family's head and feed them. So it struggles to deal with those economic issues that affect, so many people around the world.
And I would imagine immigration is a challenge as well, because now you have many people with many different languages, and the social workers. Uh, are there adequate resources in place for communications to be
Yeah,
happening and
yeah.
things like that? Yeah.
I think the communication isn't really an issue per se. I think, here in California, there's obviously a lot of Latinos, so there's plenty of social workers who speak Spanish, and they will do that. I don't think they're gonna, I haven't seen a case like that where they couldn't even communicate with them.
Well, I just
They'll
know here,
find.
like in Canada, for instance, in the school systems, I've heard some teachers have so many kids with, we have so many people from all over the world. It's you can't speak all the languages, especially in the elementary grades. You get someone even in high school coming in and they don't speak English, so it can be a challenge. So I was just kind of curious about it.
Yeah, no, I haven't seen anything to that regard. But like you said, families are changing, dynamics are changing,
Mhm.
which is great, but we just need our systems to reflect those, and be able to be flexible and adjust and not be so rigid in their thinking or in their policies.
So who else worked on this project with you?
Well, I did a lot of the work myself. This was
Okay.
a self-financed project, but I had a great cinematographer, dear friend of mine, Evan Parquet. Had a great composer, Lucas Santiago Cantor, great sound designer, Mike Moding. And some of the people within the film were actually really helpful in just getting me into the system and helping get me access and resources. One woman in the film, Melinda Murphy, she was a social worker for 10 years, quit that, then became a social work advocate for parents who enter the system. And she actually wrote a really great tell-all book about the system, which kind of blows the whistle on the Department of Children and Family Services, called Culture of Fear. And I'd read that book and it was a big inspiration for me. So she was very beneficial in just connecting with people. And also one of the attorneys, Robert Powell, who works in civil rights litigation, because what we've seen is the only time the system makes changes is when you sue them. When you sue them, and there are a lot of civil lawsuits against this child welfare system in the country, and I have a couple civil rights attorneys who that's their career, is suing different county and state agencies. So yeah, I was lucky to have a great team of people and support, and it got distribution through Porter and Craig Film and Media, and now it's available on Amazon, so, and on demand, which is great.
Yeah. Now I have to say I wasn't able to watch the film because it's geo blocked here in Canada. It's not available. I went to
It's not
go.
available in Canada. Oh,
No, because
okay.
we
I
have
thought it was.
Amazon.ca and you have to get it on Amazon.com, just to make you aware. So I think if you could probably get it on Amazon.ca and then it would probably be available here. But when I went to get it today, it wasn't available. It is available through Spectrum as well in the US. I didn't try that, so I don't know if that's geo blocked. Is there any other place where you can download it or watch it at this point, or just those two places?
Right now, it's just on demand at Amazon. It's supposed to be on Canada and the UK. So thank you for telling me that, Rick. I will call the distributor and try to get that rectified, because that should not be correct. It should be available there, but hoping it will become available in more places as it progresses. It'll probably be on Apple Movies and Vudu as time goes on. But just happy to have it out there in the world. It took me almost 3 years to make, so it's a journey to make the independent films. So I'm happy that it's just out there at this point.
Well, I could see from just the trailer that it's extremely well produced. Very the videography is exceptional.
Thank you.
The music is excellent as well. The subject matter also very engaging. It's timely as well. There seems to be a lot of interest right now around the topic of child welfare. Why do you think why is that in your estimation?
Well, one other thing I really liked about this subject matter, Rick, was, in a lot of, hot button issues, right? You can always put the right on one side and the left on the other normally. And I really liked this topic because I found that no matter what side of the political spectrum you were on, a lot of people agreed with the issues at hand, whether it was too much government intervention or whether it was racism against, Black or brown families, or, poor people getting hit harder. I think a lot of people, no matter what your political leanings may be, kind of all agree about the key elements of the system not working and not working to protect children and protect families. And I thought it's a nice bridge where people can kind of look at something objectively and, come together on an issue.
That was kind of my next question too, is how does politics play into this? Is the system struggling because politicians are misguided, or have they tried to score political points that in ways that have hurt the system? What are we looking at here?
Well, I would say the system really changed in 1997 with the Adoptions and Safe Families Act. And this was actually championed by Hillary Clinton, who was the first lady at the time. And the act, like I would say a lot of things in politics, it had good intentions, right? The intention was a lot of kids were sort of languishing in foster care, right? They couldn't go home to their parents, but the foster care parents weren't like a full-time replacement either. And so you would get kids that would just languish in the system till they were 18, and then you set them free, and the results weren't very good. So there was this big push for adoption. How can we get kids to adoption? And then we put this financial incentive in there. County agencies get paid $4,000 to $8,000 per child. They move from foster care to adoption. And that's back to the money, right? Now we're incentivizing agencies to take kids away and then adopt them out, right? And if you got a cute little bundly baby, they want to adopt that kid out. And in the film, we mention if your kid is under the age of 3, you have 6 months to remediate the issue. Now, if your kid is older than the age of 3, you have 12 months to remediate the issue. Now, you ask yourself, well, why is that difference there? The difference is simple. People want to adopt cute little babies. They don't want to adopt a 15-year-old with a bunch of behavioral issues, right? So, that's a key problem within the system, I would say.
Yeah. Jeremy, is there anything else you'd like to add, or any area that you think we should explore that I might have missed?
No, I think, what I'll end on is that, this film is meant to lay the information out there intellectually and emotionally. I want people to try to sit in other people's shoes and instead of judge them. I think in America and all around the world, we really do judge parents, how you were raised compared to how I was raised. We have these unconscious biases. Oh, you should be doing this with your kid, or you should be doing that. but I wanted to kind of break down those barriers and try to let the audience in to other people's shoes and try to have some empathy for them and what they might be going through and understand that the bigger things at play here. So you have that emotional aspect, then you have that understanding of how this system works and how it's affecting these everyday people.
And you've done a lot of other work. Do you have a website or social media that you'd like to direct people
Yeah,
to
I mean,
find
you
your other
could find
stuff?
me on Instagram. My Instagram is sorted, SORTED, cilantro at 24 on Instagram. And you can find Failure to Protect at Failure to Protect on Instagram as well. And yeah, I'm currently working in true crime right now. I'm in Kentucky doing a show for Discovery Channel called Murder in the Heartland. So, I love telling, stories that affect everyday people and that have, social impact as well.
Tell me the name of that Instagram account again, and I'll put it up on the screen here.
SORTED_cilantro 24. And that's because my production company is Sorted Pictures. My favorite herb is cilantro, and my lucky number is 24. So
that's right. Sorted_cilantro,
Mhm.
SOLO.
SORTED_CILANTRO 24. Sorted cilantro.
I still don't think I got it right.
I could write it.
Cilantro.
Let me just write it in the chat for you here.
Sure.
No.
I'm way off base, right? Okay.
Yeah, you're way off here. I'm going to write it in the chat for you right now.
Excellent. In the private chat there? There we go.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll copy and paste that into the banner. Sorry about that. Hang on. That's wrong. This will be right. Here we go.
Okay.
There it is. Sorted_cilantro. Oh, of course, not an S to C. 24.
It's all good. And thank you for telling me about the Canada thing. I'll rectify that and let you know when that, because that should be available in Canada and the UK as well.
I'll tell you, a lot of people up here will, especially within our audience, will want to watch your documentary. I just know because we just had a Million March for Children event few weeks ago, hundreds of thousands of people in the streets, another one coming up on the 21st. Of course, it's just top of mind for people, these issues surrounding children. So I know that a lot of people will want to view your work.
Thank you. And thanks for having me on, Rick.
Thank you very much, Jeremy. A privilege as always, and hope to have you back again soon.
Okay. My pleasure.
All right. Take care. There you have it, folks. So let me take another quick break here. We'll come back with more stuff, more news on the other side of this.
Maverick News. The world is watching.
Hey, I'm back. And at the United Nations today, the U.S. vetoed a UN resolution condemning Hamas's attacks on Israel and all violence against civilians. That veto, of course, came from the United States. The vote involved, of course, the 15-member Security Council on the resolution sponsored by Brazil. 12 votes in favor, the United States against, and Russia and the United Kingdom abstaining. I have video of the vote right here. Let's watch it, and you'll see what happened.
2023/775, please raise their hand. Against? Abstentions? The result of the voting is as follows. Six votes in favor, 1 vote against, 8 abstentions. The proposed amendment has not been adopted, having failed to obtain the required number of votes. Shall now put to the vote the proposed amendment to be inserted before operative paragraph 1 of the draft resolution. This amendment is contained in document S/2023/776.
I don't think we're in the right place.
Will those in favor of the proposed amendment to be inserted before operative paragraph 1 contained in document S/2023/776, please raise their hand. Against?
So they were voting on a number of things here.
Abstentions? The result of the voting is as follows. 7 votes in favor, 1 vote against, 7 abstentions. The proposed amendment has not been adopted.
Let me pull out of this. This is not queued up to the right area in any event. The point is, this the United States did veto. It's in there, but the United States did veto that that call for a condemnation of attacks on civilians. This all happening, of course, while Joe Biden heads off to Israel. He was there. And while visiting, the Department of Defense in the U.S. came out and said that they do not believe that the blast at that hospital in Gaza was the result of an Israeli attack. The DoD says Islamic Jihad is responsible for the hospital blast. So here's the report on that from ABC News. And there have actually been some conflicting comments made by Joe Biden within the past 24 hours with regard to all of that. And it's extremely important because that hospital explosion, attack, whatever it is right at the very center now of the information war. There it is, Israel, Gaza. Updates, DoD says Islamic Jihad responsible for the blast. Hundreds killed in Gaza hospital blast. There's Biden meeting with Netanyahu. But on social media, it's a war. It's a Twitter war. It's what it's come down to, with all different kinds of theories and claims. And it's central to the whole thing because, of course, the optics on it are terrible. If Israel is responsible, massive public relations blow. If the Palestinians or Hamas, if they're responsible, huge public relations blow. Who wants to be seen in the court of public opinion as being a killer of sick and wounded people? Nobody. So if you did it, you have to blame it on the other side. And we talked about this last night, and the truth is, I don't think we'll probably ever really know the truth. Because all it takes is for one side to accuse the other side, and then the other side to accuse the other side, and then it becomes a war of words. And how are we supposed to know? And then it doesn't matter what evidence is thrown out there. The other side works to discredit it. So they're both fighting this information war, and we just really don't know. That's the truth. We don't really know. We just know that both sides are committing atrocities. That much we know. That is what we know. And here's Biden.
Saddened and outraged by the explosion at the hospital in Gaza yesterday. And based on what I've seen, it appears as though it was done by the other team, not you. But there's a lot of people out there not sure. So we've got to overcome a lot of things. And it also means encouraging life-saving capacity to help the Palestinians who are innocent. Taking too much time, but the point is this, that I was deeply saddened and outraged by the explosion at the hospital.
Yeah, he was taking too much time because he has trouble formulating his thoughts. Can't keep his thoughts straight. Because we know that he's just not that strong mentally anymore. Man. That's kind of where we're at tonight, folks. That's kind of where we're at. And yeah, again, I think we're seeing we're seeing a worldwide unrest in response to really a call for a worldwide intifada. They're coming right out and calling for it. I don't know how you get peace with more violence, but that's what some people want. Not everyone. Not all Palestinians, certainly not all Israelis. I'm seeing it gets messy politically. You're seeing people from Israel supporting Palestinians. You're seeing Palestinians supporting Israel. That's not the majority, but that's how crazy things have gotten, you know. And there's just a huge amount of propaganda. Let's take a look at what Biden had to say at this presser.
I come to Israel with a single message. You're not alone. You are not alone. As long as the United States stands, and we will stand forever, we'll not let you ever be alone. Most importantly, I know the recent terrorist assault on the people of this nation has left a deep, deep wound. More than 1,300 innocent Israelis killed, including at least 31 American citizens by the terrorist group Hamas. Hundreds of young people at a music festival. The festival was for peace, gunned down as they ran for their lives. Scores of innocents, from infants to elderly grandparents, Israelis and Americans, taken hostage, children slaughtered, babies slaughtered, entire families massacred, rape, beheadings, bodies burned alive. Hamas committed atrocities that recall the worst ravages of ISIS, unleashing pure, unadulterated evil upon the world. There's no rationalizing it, no excusing it, period. The brutality we saw would have cut deep anywhere in the world, but it cuts deeper here in Israel. October 7th, which was a sacred Jewish holiday, became the deadliest day for the Jewish people since the Holocaust. It has brought to the surface painful memories and scars left by millennia of anti-Semitism and the genocide of the Jewish people. The world watched then, it knew, and the world did nothing. We will not stand by and do nothing again. Not today, not tomorrow, not ever. To those who are living in limbo, waiting desperately to learn the fate of a loved one, especially to families of the hostages, you're not alone. We're working with partners throughout the region, pursuing every avenue to bring home those who are being held captive by Hamas. I can't speak publicly about all the details, but let me assure you, for me, as the American president, there's no higher priority than the release and safe return of all these hostages. To those who are grieving, a child, a parent, a spouse, a sibling, a friend, I know you feel like there's that black hole in the middle of your chest. You feel like you're being sucked into it. The survivor's remorse, the anger, the questions of faith in your soul. Staring at that empty chair, sitting Shiva. The first Sabbath without them. They're the everyday things, the small things that you miss the most. The scent when you open the closet door. The morning coffee you shared together. The bend of his smile, the perfect pitch of her laugh. The giggle of your little boy, the baby. For those who have lost loved ones, this is what I know. They'll never be truly gone. There's something that's never fully lost. Your love for them and their love for you. And I promise you, you'll be walking along some days and say, what would she or he want me to do? You smile when you pass a place that reminds you of them. That's when you know. When a smile comes to your lips before a tear to your eye, that's when you know you're going to fully make it. That's what will give you the fortitude to find light in the darkest hours. When terrorists believe they could bring you down, bend your will, break your resolve. But they never did and they never will. Instead, we saw incredible stories of heroism and courage. Israelis taking care of one another. Neighbors forming watch groups to protect their kibbutz. Opening their homes to shelter survivors. Retired soldiers running into danger once again. Civilian medics flying across rescue missions. And off-duty medics at the music festival caring for the wounded before becoming a victim himself. Volunteers retrieving bodies of the dead so families could bury their loved ones in accordance with Jewish tradition. Reservists leaving behind their families, their honeymoons, their studies abroad without hesitation, and so much more. The state of Israel was born to be a safe place for the Jewish people of the world. That's why it was born. I've long said, if Israel didn't exist, we'd have to invent it. While it may not feel that way today, Israel must again be a safe place for the Jewish people. And I promise you, we're going to do everything in our power to make sure that it will be. 75 years ago, just 11 minutes after its founding, President Harry S. Truman and the United States of America became the first nation to recognize Israel. We've stood by your side ever since. We're going to stand by your side now. My administration was in close touch with your leadership from the first moments of this attack. We're going to make sure you have what you need to protect your people, to defend your nation. For decades, we've ensured Israel's qualitative military edge. And later this week, I'm going to ask the United States Congress for an unprecedented support package for Israel's defense. We're going to keep Iron Dome fully supplied so it can continue standing sentinel over Israeli skies, saving Israeli lives. We've moved U.S. military assets to the region, including positioning the USS Ford Carrier Strike Group in the Eastern Mediterranean, with the USS Eisenhower on the way to defer further aggression against Israel and to prevent this conflict from spreading. The world will know that Israel is stronger than ever. And my message to any state or any other hostile actor thinking about attacking Israel remains the same as it was a week ago. Don't. Since this terrorist attack took place, we've seen it described as Israel's 9/11. But for a nation the size of Israel, it was like 15 9/11s. The scale may be different, but I'm sure those horrors have tapped into some kind of primal feeling in Israel, just like it did and felt in the United States. Shock, pain, rage, an all-consuming rage. I understand, and many Americans understand. You can't look at what has happened here to your mothers, your fathers, your grandparents, sons, daughters, children, even babies, and not scream out for justice. Justice must be done. But I caution this: while you feel that rage, don't be consumed by it. After 9/11, we were enraged in the United States. While we sought justice and got justice, we also made mistakes. I'm the first U.S. president to visit Israel in time of war. I've made wartime decisions. I know the choices are never clear or easy for the leadership. There's always cost, but it requires being deliberate. It requires asking very hard questions. It requires clarity about the objectives and an honest assessment about whether the path you're on will achieve those objectives. The vast majority of Palestinians are not Hamas. Hamas does not represent the Palestinian people. Hamas uses innocent families in Gaza as human shields, putting their command centers, their weapons, their communications tunnels in residential areas. Palestinian people are suffering greatly as well. We mourn the loss of innocent Palestinian lives like the entire world. I was outraged and saddened by the enormous loss of life yesterday in the hospital in Gaza. Based on the information we've seen to date, it appears the result of an errant rocket fired by a terrorist group in Gaza. The United States unequivocally stands for the protection of civilian life during conflict, and I truly grieve for the families who were killed or wounded by this tragedy. People of Gaza need food, water, medicine, shelter. Today, I asked the Israeli cabinet, who I met with for some time this morning, to agree to the delivery of life-saving humanitarian assistance to civilians in Gaza, based on the understanding that there will be inspections and that the aid should go to civilians, not to Hamas. Israel agreed the humanitarian assistance can begin to move from Egypt to Gaza. Let me be clear: if Hamas diverts or steals the assistance, they will have demonstrated once again that they have no concern for the welfare of the Palestinian people. And it will end. As a practical matter, it will stop the international community from being able to provide this aid. We're working in close cooperation with the government of Egypt, the United Nations, and its agencies like the World Food Program and other partners in the region to get trucks moving across the border as soon as possible. Separately, I ask Israel that the global community demand that the International Red Cross be able to visit hostages. I just demanded that the United States fully supports. Today, I'm also announcing $100 million in new U.S. funding for humanitarian assistance in both Gaza and the West Bank. This money will support more than 1 million displaced and conflict-affected Palestinians, including emergency needs in Gaza. You are a Jewish state. You are a Jewish state, but you're also a democracy. Like the United States, you don't live by the rules of terrorists. You live by the rule of law. When conflicts flare, you live by the law of wars. What sets us apart from the terrorists as we believe in the fundamental dignity of every human life. Israeli, Palestinian, Arab, Jew, Muslim, Christian, everyone. You can't give up what makes you who you are. If you give that up, then the terrorists win, and we can never let them win. You know, Israel's a miracle, a triumph of faith and resolve and resilience over impossible pain and loss. Think about October 7th, the Jewish holiday, where you read about the death of Moses, a tragic story of a profound loss to an entire nation, a death that could have left hopelessness in the hearts of the entire nation. But though Moses died, his memory, his message, his lessons have lived on for generations of the Jewish people as well as many others. Just as the memory of your loved ones will live on as well. After reading the story of Moses' death, those who observed the holiday began reading the Torah from the very beginning. The story of creation reminds us of two things. First, that when we get knocked down, we get back up again and we begin anew. And second, when we're faced with tragedy and loss, we must go back to the beginning and remember who we are. We are all human beings, created in the image of God with dignity, humanity, and purpose. In the darkness, to be the light unto the world is what we're about. You inspire hope and light for so many around the world. That's what the terrorists seek to destroy. That's what they seek to destroy. Because they live in darkness, but not you, not Israel. Nations of conscience like the United States and Israel are not measured solely by the example or power. We're measured by the power of our example. That's why, as hard as it is, we must keep pursuing peace. We must keep pursuing a path so that Israel and the Palestinian people can both live safely, in security, in dignity, and in peace. For me, that means a two-state solution. We must keep working for Israel's greater integration with its neighbors. These attacks have only strengthened my commitment and determination and my will to get that done. I'm here to tell you, the terrorists will not win. Freedom will win. So let me end where I began. Israel, you're not alone. The United States stands with you. I've told the story before, and I'll tell it again, of my first meeting with an Israeli prime minister 50 years ago as a young senator. I was sitting across from Golda Meir at her desk in her office. And she had a guy who later became prime minister, sitting next to me, just before the 1973 Yom Kippur War. And she flipped the maps up and down, telling me how bad things were and how terrible they were. All of a sudden, she looked at me. She said, "Would you like a photograph?" I looked at her. She got up from her desk and walked out into that hallway. I think it's marble flooring. Walked out in the hallway. We walked out, and there were a bunch of photographers standing in front of us. We were standing shoulder to shoulder. Without her looking at me, she said to me, knowing I'd hear her, "Why do you look so worried, Senator Biden?" And I said, "Worried? Like, of course I'm worried." And she looked at me, and she didn't look. She said, "We don't worry, Senator. We Israelis have a secret weapon. We have nowhere else to go." Well, today, I say to all of Israel, the United States isn't going anywhere either. We're going to stand with you. We'll walk beside you in those dark days. We'll walk beside you in the good days to come. And they will come. As you say in Hebrew, which I'm not going to attempt to do because I'm such a terrible linguist, I'll say it in English. The people of Israel live. The people of Israel live. Israel will be safe, secure, Jewish, and democratic state today, tomorrow, and forever. May God protect all those who work for peace. God save those who are still in harm's way.
He can barely speak English these days, let alone offer anything up in Hebrew. I have also tonight, We're seeing that protesters have actually entered the rotunda at the Capitol building. And they're protesting there. But before I show you that, here is the video of the vote at the UN on that issue of condemnation of attacks against civilians. Peace. U.S. vetoed it. Here it is.
Those against? Abstentions?
So Russia didn't vote on it.
The result of the voting is as follows. 12 votes in favor, 1 vote against, 2 abstentions. The draft resolution has not been adopted owing to the negative vote of a permanent member of the council.
That's it. So that resolution was calling for a ceasefire, and that is what these protesters are calling for at the Capitol tonight, where at least 100, it looks like far more than that, honestly, have entered the building. And this is what it looks like tonight. And some people are pointing out that the J6ers were held accountable for far less than that. Some arrests have been made. This is, wow. Wow, this is divisive. Incredibly divisive. Donald Trump weighing in tonight as well, saying that Joe Biden sending, I believe it's $100 million in aid to Palestinians is inappropriate given the current situation. That's what he had to say. And then there's this. And so that is, in my mind, that's a protest, not an insurrection. Definitely a protest. But depends on your perspective, doesn't it? And check out this footage of these rocket attacks.
וואו. הנה עכשיו, חכה.
Shooting them all down.
זה כיפת ברזל שלנו.
Trying to.
לא, הפיצוץ זה היה עולה. לאן זה?
My God. Yeah, here's the clip of Trump saying, well, responding to Joe Biden's decision to send aid to Palestine as well.
Yes, Mr. President. Nobody was asking that question. Biden is sending $100 million to the Palestinians. Yes, Mr. President. Nobody was asking that question. What? Go ahead. Well, what do you think about that monetary fund? I think right now it's totally inappropriate. It's so inappropriate to be doing that right now. He's over in Israel and he's giving money to the Palestinians. I think it's very inappropriate. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. President. Will you be back tomorrow by any chance? Probably not. Biden is.
Yeah. Okay. I'll be right back. Stay with me.
Maverick News. The world is watching. Hello, world. Are you awake? Uniting humankind by liberating millions of minds at a time. Maverick News. The world is watching.
The New World Order. Government overreach. The Great Reset. Mainstream media lies. Now more than ever, independent voices are needed. Donate now, at freedomreporters.com. That's freedomreporters.com. Maverick News. The antivirus program. For your mind.
Okay, I'm back. And yeah, you know, it's what time is it? It's 7:48. Okay, so let's just shift gears just a little bit. Okay, because everything is so darn dark. We're gonna get a little less dark, and then we're gonna get a lot less dark with these next two things that I'm going to share with you. Let me just, before we do that, let me just make sure I haven't missed any of the important stuff that I wanted to talk about tonight. I think we've covered, you know, most of the stuff. Everything is all, it's just all Israel, Hamas. Okay, enough. Let's do this. All right. I came across this. And I wanted to share this with you because, you remember the before times, right? Well, okay, let's just in Russia, I do some automotive journalism, right? So I just came across this report and I found it quite fascinating because as the West has been fighting with Russia through this Ukraine war, McDonald's is now branded differently. A lot of the big brands that are American, even the credit card companies, they pulled out. But Russia has really adapted, responded, and even their cars, their automotive market, it's shifted. You have all these different brands now. So this guy is an automotive journalist from, I think this is Traveling with Russell. And I think he's from Australia, if I'm not mistaken. In any event, he's in Russia and he's just kind of checking out what's going on in Russia. And he went to this auto mall to see how some of the big car companies that have pulled out have now been replaced with other brands from countries like China. I just thought it was pretty interesting. So let's just take a quick look.
And the one thing that's quite noticeable, I've just literally got here, is they're all white.
Lot of
now,
Russian brand.
Looking also into the parking lot, the white color continues.
A lot more Ladas being
sold. As we
sold.
see off in the distance, Kia. But all of the Ladas are in white. What's going on? The Lada Niva. This is actually the upgraded version. This is the Travel, which is the 5-door family version of the classic Niva. There is an interesting car in the car park as I'm about to walk in, and the Jack 6, which looks awfully like the Moscovich. And Jack is the Chinese version of the Moscovich, but they've got one parked right here at the entrance. That's super interesting. Before I head on inside, I just thought I'd walk around the perimeter of this district just quickly. Now, there is quite a few different dealerships all in a row here, which is quite normal in Russia, and in Moscow, they put a whole lot of them side by side. And J2 here is a brand of Cherry. And this has actually recently opened. Now, I was a little bit confused when I first came to the building, and I looked it up. This was where Hyundai was. And you can actually still see Hyundai cars dotted around in the parking lot. And it looks like they've took over the whole area here. And quite interestingly,
Korean brands.
Just ahead here
Hyundai
is the Ford logo.
No doubt Genesis is
and
in
what
there
I
too.
probably understand is that the aftermarket care of the cars and the warranties are dealt with here, regardless of if all the companies have left. So it's super interesting that the Ford logo is right there, and all the cars in the car park are a little bit mixed. But J2, there's actually a few Hyundais parked right outside the building. This is the Staria. Now, I've never seen one of these before. Have a look at these windows. Has anyone seen a Hyundai Staria before? It seems to me like some of the dealership models, or the last models before they closed, are still here and they weren't sold off. So I wonder how that works with the new dealerships taking over. Now I'm curious, as I'm walking around some of these other buildings, and all of the car brands are up on the front building here. But the actual dealership is just called Major, which I think is these different buildings combined. And this was actually where Subaru was. And there's quite a few different cars inside. I think they've become a multi-brand dealership, from the best I can understand. And they've took all the signs down and put them on one building altogether. I think I'm giving away what the next building was. It was Volvo. And now I'm not really here to kind of criticize or talk about the car industry in Russia, but I just thought while I'm walking around, I may as well put this at the beginning. And this was the Volvo dealership, and now it's Geely. And they've got some Geelys
China
right here in the front, and plenty of models inside. And Volvo, this was your dealership. And then Chang'an Auto, this was where the Volkswagen dealership was, and all the cars are inside, but there is no more Volkswagens on display here. There is actually one in the car park though. There we go, right there. And I wonder if this might be for sale, possibly. The one last building before I get down to Lada, after my little short walk around right here. So this is Haval, and this building over here is going to be Tank. That's a brand of four-wheel drives called Tank. And this building was actually where Land Rover was, Jaguar, and Skoda. Now, Havala's got plenty of cars already right outside. And again, everything is white. White everywhere. Yeah. I don't know too much about the Tank. This is the 500. And there's the other one over here. That's the 300. There is actually a dealership very close to where I live, also with Tank. And this is the first time I've seen them up close. They look like big Toyota Land Cruiser to me. I'm not sure what you think the car looks like, but does anybody want to go to Tank? I'm fairly sure that Haval have a lot of cars in Australia now. Now, I haven't really been home in the last 2 years, but I'm pretty sure it's an established brand in Australia. But we're here to see a Lada, and it's Lada time. Walking inside, they've got the
into some of the pricing
hours of operation,
here, and it's
7 days a week.
It's surprising.
8 a.m. till 9 p.m. Now, where you live in the world, are these the opening hours of the car dealerships where you live? I'm curious if they're 7 days a week until 9 p.m. every night. Let's head on inside. Walking inside, the white car theme continues. And
oh, hang on a second here. So yeah, we're going to get into some pricing. Let me get you up there too. You'll be surprised at the prices. Here we go.
Little bit of a walk around of the Lada Niva Legend Bronto. And this one is 1.3 million rubles, or $13,000. Now, of course, the exchange rate's pretty close to 100 rubles.
So 13,000.
What I'm curious about is how he's going to drive it out of here. Now, there is a lift right here, but I'm imagining he's pretty smart about doing this.
That's 18,000.
But we're actually going to see
$13,200
in action.
US.
So I still call it a car, even though it's a four-wheel drive. Now, 1.7 liter, 83 brake horsepower. It's got the wheels on it. It actually doesn't mention the wheels, but there he goes. Now, I wasn't really expecting one of the cars to drive away.
I want one.
Now, it's got the actual roof racks.
Give me one.
On top as well, along with the lights. It's a nice vehicle as it leaves slowly. Now, this is one of the only cars in the dealership that's not in white as well. I wasn't particularly expecting one of the cars to be driven out of here right while I was making the video, but
can you get an
why not
SUV in Canada?
get it as part of the video?
Like 13 grand.
It's very interesting. I always wondered how they got them up and down onto the second or third level of these buildings.
I don't think so.
And I'm seeing it in action right now.
Any kind of
and just
SUV,
like that,
13,000.
the car is gone.
18,000.
There we go. And that's how it's done. one of the interesting things about all of
Check
the
this
different
one out.
Ladas here at the
You're looking for
dealership is they're all in
entry level,
white. And
small
with exception
SUV.
of literally
Check the price
2
by
cars
numbers.
upstairs in this section, every model is in white. And this is the absolute classic Lada Niva, the Lada Niva legend. And although I don't mind white, another color would be nice. And this one is 830,000 rubles, or 8,300 US dollars, 1.7 liter, 83 brake horsepower, 16-inch alloy wheels, heated seats, and for an extra 15,000 rubles, or $150, you've also got an upgrade where you get floor mats and carpets. Absolutely luxury extra features. It's a little bit easier making the videos up on the second level.
So
there's lots of customers coming in downstairs. And we're right here by a highway. And of course, inside here, it's nice and quiet. It's a little bit echoey, of course. But it's nice to
13,000 Canadian.
walk around where it's a little bit easier and not so noisy. Classic Lada Niva. I really like these. I actually, from the first day I came to Russia, I wanted one of these. And I just wish one day I can own one.
Basic.
Or I can even just go for a drive-in one. That would be pretty fancy.
Simple.
Interesting, they've got Pirelli
Practical.
tires on the car as well. Now, do we call them all cars? Or do they have other names? Should I be calling it a four-wheel drive? Because of the light coming in through the windows, I thought I'd just sit in the passenger seat. It's a little bit easier to show you the interior. And it's very basic. That's the whole point of the Lada Niva. No fancy gadgets. The windscreen wipers, hazard lights. That's the anti-fog for the windows. There's the heater on and off. No radio. Of course, manual gears. And this is the four-wheel drive part of it as well. And that's pretty much it. Very straightforward dashboard. And the wing mirrors, it's a manual wing mirror adjustment. This one also has electric windows. And the button's just down here. But what more do you need? I think this is the whole point of these cars, right? Keep it simple and try and keep the price down as well.
And
So I need everyone to let me know, what do you think of the Lada Niva legend?
What do you think?
Perhaps somebody even owns one. Let me know in the comments. Do you own one of these? Maybe let me know if you've got it in a different color. There's also the bumper bar here on the front. A lot of times they call these crash bars. But very nice looking car. I'm trying.
Yeah. So anyway, I think that's pretty interesting. And you know what? Think about this. You know, some people do want a revolution, right? But at the end of the day, what's the difference? It's the brand of car that you're going to buy and the value of the dollar or the ruble. So what does it end up costing you? It's economic policies, essentially. Right now, we're so overinflated. Our dollars aren't worth anything. The government's been printing too much money. But at the end of the day, do you really want a revolution? What are you going to get out of it? You're going to buy a Lada or a Geely instead of a Chevy or a Ford. And you're still going to get a Hyundai or a Kia. And you're going to get an entry-level gasoline-powered Lada SUV with four-wheel drive. And so for, 13 grand. Sign me up. I look at what's the difference in this country and that. It's like everything is becoming sort of the same anyway. They've got auto malls. We've got auto malls. They used to have Ford. Now they have Geely. they had Geely before anyway, because the Chinese companies are here. And, you know, you go back to like the 1970s, Malcolm Bricklin, who brought you the Bricklin motor car, which they tried to get started and they were building them out in the East Coast. He actually tried to bring Geely to Canada at one point. It just failed. But that company's come back and they're actually bigger and they're making forays into the Canadian market, the North American market now. You're going to get the stuff like, we don't need to kill each other over that. And McDonald's pulls out of Russia because of the war in Ukraine, but it's still there. They just call it something else. And you think that they don't have capitalism in China? You don't think they have capitalism in Russia? Well, they do. They have markets. They just control things differently. I like free markets. I'm a free market guy. And every country that has become prosperous over time, every communist country that has become prosperous has adopted capitalistic, mercantilist, free markets to some degree, integrated those things into their economies so that they can provide consumer goods to the people at affordable prices, mass production. All of these same techniques and economic systems come to bear. There's no ideologically pure system really anywhere in the world anyway. Well, the ones that are more extreme, those are the societies and countries that tend not to do well. But even in Russia, it's not like the old Soviet Union. Over here in Canada and the US, in Canada, we have a lot of socialism. I think too much. That's my personal opinion, but it ebbs and it flows and we shift back and forth and things change over time. It's going to be okay if we let it be okay. It's going to be okay if we become more tolerant. It's going to be okay if we can learn to forgive each other. Because after a revolution, you're just going to get a different brand of car, or probably even the same damn brand. It ain't worth it. I don't think so. Peace, man, peace. Maybe what we need to do is laugh a little bit more. And we'll do that when we come back after this.
The New World Order. Government overreach. The Great Reset. Mainstream media lies. Now more than ever, independent voices are needed. Donate now at freedomreporters.com. That's freedomreporters.com. Maverick News. The antivirus program for your mind.
Okay, so I just got to show you this tonight. I hope this cheers you up as much as it cheered me up this morning when I found it in my feed. This is from the before times, from the 1970s. It made me laugh so hard because it was so kind of half serious and so kind of ridiculous at the same time. This is a video featuring Debbie Evans Levitt, a Stunts Unlimited. This is a Stunts Unlimited video. This is her doing motorcycle tricks in the 1970s. And it just says so many things about the era, about the way our culture was back then. Even the sexual politics of the day are sort of addressed here without them knowing they were really doing it. Just the way this video begins, the way the narrator talks about this woman is, because I guess at the time it was sort of cutting edge, rebellious for a woman to be riding a motorcycle, let alone doing motorcycle stunts.
Strangely enough, one of the best at bike control is a beautiful young girl from Southern California named Debbie Evans. Not only is Debbie a top stunt woman in Hollywood movies, she's also an excellent trials rider. Debbie can make a motorcycle do almost anything. Even leap tall picnic tables in a single bound.
Holy Toledo!
And now Debbie is about to perform her world-famous headstand on the bike trick.
Oh my God!
May we have a drum roll, please? You'll notice that the bike is completely unsupported by any kind of kickstand, and the success of the stunt is totally dependent on Debbie's innate sense of balance. Why am I whispering? She's now in position to begin the headstand. Her head is down. She brushes some hair from her eyes and begins the ascent. Her legs are in the 3/4 position. They extend to the complete arch. She's done it. She's up. But now comes the dangerous descent. Her legs are down. Her head is up as she begins the tricky about face necessary to complete the stunt. Remember, this bike is completely unsupported. Her feet are on the pegs. She kickstarts the bike, and she's done it. Debbie Evans has flawlessly executed the world-famous headstand on the bike trick.
Oh, so good. I'm so happy.
In an almost all-male sport, Debbie ranks as a top competitor. She completed the rigorous Scottish 6 days trial in her first attempt. Before we left, Debbie insisted on showing us one more stunt. The world-famous fall in the water trick.
Yeah!
Good, Debbie.
Oh, oh, the world famous fall in the water trick. That one I could do. Oh man, if you look at what today's motorcycle guys do, like you had Evel Knievel, right? But look at what the guys do today. They like launch off ramps and they hold on to their handlebars and they fly through the air, 100. Oh my God. So yeah, what she did, that's nothing. That's nothing compared to what they do today. Not to take anything away from Debbie. She broke the mold, set the trend, and has inspired generations now of motorcycle stunt drivers who have been entertaining us in movies ever since. Thank you, Debbie. Do you want to see my stunt? I'm doing it right now. I'm sitting in my chair. Oh, Debbie. Thank you. Well, folks, that gets us to 8:13. You know what? I'm gonna wrap it up for tonight. It's just, this stuff just. What do you mean that's a guy? I'm looking in the chat here. Somebody says Debbie's a guy. No, Debbie was not a guy. Debbie is not a guy. I wonder if Debbie's still with us these days. The world famous fall in the water trick. I thought that was hilarious. I just thought it was hilarious. And I'm sure she wasn't. She's not a guy. Oh, anyway. Hope you got something out of the show tonight that was worthwhile. Stay safe out there, folks, and pray for peace if you pray. And if you don't pray, just hope. Because we need it now more than ever. And I hope somehow we can find a way to just get our country back. I don't know. I just don't know. You can support the channel if you like what we do by donating at freedomreporters.com, or you can also, of course, support us at maverickdonations.com. Please like, share, subscribe. You know the drill. All of that stuff. Subscribe on YouTube. Of course, if you're watching there, if you're inclined, please consider subscribing over on our Rumble channel. That's where we need to grow. So really appreciate the support over there as well. And yeah, we've had a pretty good audience tonight, pretty sizable. No phone calls tonight, though, folks. Honestly, all this war stuff, everything, I think, like, if you're like me, it's weighing on my mind. And so really what I want to do right now is I've got other stuff I have to do, but I just want to go and shut it all off. And instead of thinking about war, I'm going to go think about, I don't know, cool cars and motorcycle tricks and how much longer we have before the snow comes. Yeah. Thanks for spending the time here with me tonight. I should be back tomorrow night, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Love you. Love all you guys. Thank you, Maverick family. Catch you on the flip side.
This has been a Maverick Multimedia production.